Okay, so this video is for Minstrel. He wanted to have like a little bit of like an overview of some basic like hand fighting concepts in terms of like what the goals are for hand fighting. And so I'm gonna do the best I can to explain it to the level that I understand it, or the way that I think about it. You're definitely gonna have some questions, so feel free to ask those, but we're gonna talk a little bit about like the things we're trying to do. I'm gonna start by talking about things like at a higher level, like when there's at a higher level, I mean like a more hypothetical level in terms of like what I'm trying to do to his body. And then Phil's gonna talk about actually dealing with frames and stuff, okay? So like generally speaking, what I'm trying to do when I'm hand fighting him is I'm trying to create positions where I control his motion, right? Like that's common, like people talk about that all the time, right? It's like said a whole lot. So what are the types of motion that he can have? Okay, there's like two categories, okay? The first one is rotational motion. And the second one is like locomotion, where he changes his absolute position on the mat, okay? And this happens in like 3 planes. And so in rotation, people think about rotation, they think about just like this a lot of times. And this is important too, you know what I mean? Because this gives us angles on the guy. But this is just the transverse plane, which goes up and down, okay? And so in general, we're trying to rotate him to his back. I'm trying always to rotate him to his back. And that can happen mostly in what's called the sagittal plane, which is the plane that goes like this, okay? Where I'm rotating him and making him tuck his chin and do a forward roll. Do a forward roll, Phil. Yeah. Right? And then he ends up on his back. Or I'm pushing him here and I'm rotating the other way to his back. Okay? So that'd be like our snap down or our blast out. And so when I'm snapping him down, the only reason he's not going to his back is because, bang, his hands touch the mat or his head touches the mat, right? But I'm trying to rotate him in that direction. And so the other way I can rotate him is along this frontal plane, which goes like this, like cutting his body out. It'd be like a cartwheel. Yeah, that's your cartwheel plane. And a lot of times I'm combining that with the sagittal plane. You know, like I'm going here and I'm putting him to his hip. See there? So I don't want him to actually like cartwheel, I'm putting him to his hip. So generally speaking, in order to like off balance him, those are the things I'm doing. And obviously it helps me if I can get an angle like here, right? But all this does is allows me to get behind him, so I'm not dealing with his frame so much. The second thing is his locomotion, his ability to move backwards and forwards. Forwards, backwards, left, you know, all that stuff. All that stuff. So when he means absolute position, he means I'm literally right here, I rotate my like, I haven't moved where my body is. He's still in the center of the mat, right? Versus, now I'm closer to you, now I'm farther from you, now I'm this way. And this is kind of what dictates the range more than anything. Like this rotation is kind of what dictates angle, and this motion dictates the range I'm fighting him at, right? And so what I want to do, the fundamental aspect that all of solid hand fighting comes out of, is creating forward pressure, right? Creating forward pressure. Because that's the basis for like basically all of my attacks, generally speaking, right? And there's other ways of doing it, but for me, that's the fundamental thing, is creating forward pressure. And so what that means is I want to make a castle of frames, right? So I've got a castle of frames and I'm moving him forward. And I'm not like leaning on him, obviously, because it's pressure. I'm just here, I'm creating just that forward pressure. So that's the first goal, is I'm just trying to create forward pressure. And in order to do that, generally, you know, we have all of these limbs, but I want to get to the body to do that. I want to get to the body to do that. So in Greco, it's going to look something like this, where I take these V blocks, and I either put them on his ribs, right? Or I'm gonna take, this is more square in my stance like this. Or instead of a collar tie, which I can do, right? I'm kind of gonna go like, almost like I'm a boxer, where this one does this, see that? And it does this. And I put that in his shoulder here. And then I can drop that to my chest and all that. But I'm here, bang, right? Or I can get, you know, here and all that. But I'm creating structures along his chest, his shoulders here, chest, rib, and then, you know, down to the hip. But one line, two line. And I'm using that to create pressure forward. Because if I was able to stop him here, he'd fall, right? I don't have anything on his base yet. I'm just creating pressure forward. So that's what I'm trying to do, is I'm always trying to get here. Generally, always, but you know what I mean, the general always edge cases. But here, just to create forward pressure. Just to create forward pressure here. Okay? And so, when we do that, we get a lot of like reactions, we get the ability to create, you know, I pressure, he puts pressure on me, I create a trap door, I can go around him. Okay? So the problem with this is obviously he's trying to do the same thing and he also has frames. And so because he has frames, we have to get around those frames. So what Phil's going to talk about right now a little bit is center line and how he finds lanes to get to the body.
So Kabir talks a lot about like football and him using football analogies. And I don't really,
American football.
Like American football, right? And I don't really understand it for a little bit, but then he talked about lanes and goals, and it makes a little bit more sense to me, so I'm going to explain it how I understand it. So Thomas is here, and he's standing. All of my control is inside position. What the fuck does inside position mean? What it means is the body. If I can just grab his body, I'm gonna just grab his body. I'm gonna just put something on his body, which is what Thomas was explaining. So the problem is they're gonna have frames. So for example, if Thomas makes supine bar, and he just puts his legs down, legs all the way down, I'm gonna just go on his body. I'm not gonna attack his legs. But if he brings his legs up, now he's got frames in the way, and I have to move around them.
So it's the same thing up here, where because he's using his leg as base, I'm not just like trying to grab his hands, because I want to go to his body. If I can, I go directly to his body. I only attack his hands and shit because they're in the way.
So in a football way of explaining it, what's the goal? In football, if you're a running back and I give you the wrong ball, where are you trying to go? You're trying to go to the end zone. I talk about this a lot with my guys. I go, where are you trying to go? And they go, well, you're trying to find the hole. You're trying to get around the guys. And it's like, yes, but how do you know how to get around them if you're not going to the end zone? So what we're talking about is, okay, if I can just get to the end zone, which is the body, I'm gonna just get to the end zone. Problem is, there's gonna be guys in my way. In wrestling, those guys are the arms and the head. So,
And the shoulders, that's like
but it's arms and head. So, generally what you're gonna see is a bent over, like trident defense. So make that bent over trident defense square, Thomas. So you see, he's got hands and a head. So what we need to find is the hole. Now, Tom talked about double, but there's three actually. So make square and stand there. Just square and stand there. Sorry. We've got like this, what's this called again? Trap. A trap, chest, rib, hip. Trap, chest, rib, hip. But then we also have, like right here underneath his neck, his Adam's apple, the middle of his chest,
So if I had just my arms,
his belly button, in the middle of the hip.
so if I had just my arms, it'd literally be 3 holes where it's just a hole down the center, a hole here around my arm, a hole here around my arm to the side. But because I've got my head,
now there's 5 holes.
well, 4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's still 5. So, talking about center line. So how our opponent is like stanced is going to change their center line. A human being is generally like a cylinder, like their body is cylindrical. Obviously, it's not a perfect cylinder, but it's a cylindrical. So I'm here. If I'm square, the center line is directly here.
Through his spine.
Through his spine. If I take a right leg lead, it's still through his spine, but instead of being directly in the center, it's more like the collarbone, the end of the collarbone, right there.
There's his leading edge.
And then this is his leading edge. We want to beat his leading edge. So we need to take angles through the holes based on his positioning. So, you make a square position with your head down, facing that. So, there's a few holes. If I can get lower than him, and I can get under his head, I can go directly under, square under.
Just right down the middle, sorry.
Right down the middle. Now, if he's square, and I come in straight, you see there's a big hole here, like we're even, we're just mashing on. We're just gonna mash in. So what I can do is I can go to this chest hole or this chest hole. I can circle, go to that chest hole. And now you see my head is on his chest and my hands are on his body.
So it's kind of like I'm bisecting him. It's like half-man theory, right?
Or segmentation.
They'll call this half-man theory, or like, you know how like Souders will be like, I get in here, and then I isolate the head and arm. I want to exclude this arm, and be fighting just this head and this arm, right? Here. Or in general, it looks like this, bend over. Like I've got this collar tie, and I've got something here.
So he's inside this chest hole. Then there's the other chest hole. So if he's square, he's square.
Sorry.
So I come to the angle, square with your legs.
Okay. Because right
Hands up.
versus left and left versus right.
This matters. It changes it. I'll explain that in a second. So here, this hole, and then straight in. So you notice, if this is the guy's center line, we're taking 3 angles. Straight on, but we're generally getting an angle either over or under. So I can even go under or over, straight on. Or we're going not to the side, because that would be like straight on the actual side. We're just coming small angle to this hole, small angle to that hole. So when he becomes a lead leg, so let's say he's a right leg lead,
But I'm still in a square chest.
this chest over here is in his center line. This chest over here isn't his center line. His center line's right here. So we don't want to rotate as if his center line's in the middle. We want to know where his center line is. So if I'm going to go to the side, to the other side, I'm going to, you see how I'm looking at his center line?
See how his head's right here on me?
So here, he can't like rotate directly into me. He's going to back up to rotate, come back. If I look at this side, at this, at the back, as if it's part of his center line, circle into me.
No, I'm around him.
So I'm wanting to look at his center line.
We're like 2 ships passing in the night, where I'm like over here and he's over there, and then I just try to look at him.
So in general, we always want to be looking at either the center of their chest, this collarbone, or this collarbone, because that's where their center lines are going to be generally.
Yeah, you want to look at their spine, they are their spine.
Yeah, the human being is their spine, and there's a big cylinder around that. Now, he's square. No, he's not square, he's right leg lead. How do I get through? Let's say, Because I've been showing from a square position. Now, when we talk about square position, when I talk about square position, there's two types of square positions I'm talking about. Either I'm talking about literal, my legs are square.
Like you're on a fence. Box, I forget, Sandhagen talked about you're on a fence. You know, Corey Sandhagen there.
Yeah.
No, I'm fighting on a fence.
Or we're fighting on a railroad. So we're split like this on a railroad, on a fence. Now, here, my center line's here, my center line's here. But this is still fairly square.
Because his chest is open and square a bit.
So the problem is if I'm right leg lead and he's right leg lead, and we walk right into each other, I can't, unless I'm doing really high up down, I can't move right into him. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate my head. So you see how I rotate, now his head fits here, my head comes in, hand, hand.
He's essentially using like head movement to get his, and I'm not a striker, but I always see them like, oh, get your head offline. And so it's like they're here and they get their head offline to here. So like instead of being here, his head is like along this line.
Now,
so it's essentially
it's
the same
still,
thing.
it's a more rotational, so I'm not like going to the side. I'm rotating in. So like, let's say I'm doing like I'm boxing, and then I'm not like to the side, I'm rotating, right?
So we're here, and this is we only have the one angle because we don't have anybody filming us. But it's like I'm here with the guy, and I can circle like this, or I can just literally go like this here.
And you see how that lets him get through those holes?
So it's like I'm here, my hands are in line with his, I go like this, and now my hand can go to the elbow, and one hand can go to the rib.
And this head goes directly to my center line.
So I'm here.
So,
and this can come back, obviously, this can come back in here.
okay, so,
Lots of things.
what we're trying to do is we're trying to find holes, lanes, like in football. Those lanes, if he's right-legged lead, again, are here. So you see this? There's a hole right here, but that's generally fairly well defended. There's a hole right here, and there's a hole right there. And so this I won't call it contortion, but this rotation that we're using to like hit through the holes, like that's just something I like. You don't have to do it. But the point is, you want to be able to go through the holes. So when we talk about like American style wrestling, like outside wrestling, we're talking about
It's more like boxing.
It's more like boxing, so it's not like they're not hand fighting. It's more like go supine guard.
It's more like using defensive
It's
traffic.
more like a Toriano side to side, fast passing. Whereas the European style we're talking about is more pressure. So if I'm like Jordan Burroughs, pop, 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 pop. I'm looking for those lanes, and then when I find one, I can blast a double through pretty much any of those lanes. A double.
What Jordan generally does is he's generally a right leg lead, and he's popping them here, and then he's finding this lane right here, this lane. Because this lane right here gives him that straight up the middle double. And generally what they do instead is they give him this leg, so he's got either a single leg here, or he goes there, and then they so he has like a 2-lane attack.
So that's, it's still hand fighting, and at the higher level, like that's still hand fighting. It's just a different style. What we're talking about is like a pressure style, which I think, especially when we're talking about jiu-jitsu people, we're talking about lack of shoes, maybe older, not as explosive. They're generally going to want to be more pressure, just like in jiu-jitsu, you old fat people, you want to be pressure. And so he's left, now the holes are here. I want to be facing his center line. If I come and I just go here, I'm not facing his center line, he has all this space to fill in.
So see here, like how it's similar to left versus right in like striking. I want like outside foot position so that I can be here. If I try to come inside and I'm here, and I give him the outside foot position, I've got to understand what I'm doing, that I'm giving him that angle. But the other thing I can do is I can just turn my foot like this so that it's like cutting here.
So see, it's facing toward my center line.
Here, like this.
So the game that we play a lot with our guys, our kids, is we call it creepy guy. So they're gonna take their hands, they're gonna go like this on their hips, and then they're just gonna look right here underneath the chest, right here at the chest, because that's generally gonna be the center line. And my job is to just look at that center line.
It's gonna be like a peeping Tom.
I'm gonna be like a peepee Tom, a creepy guy. I'm looking at him creepy, and he's trying to make it so I can't look at him creepy.
Even this here, he's not looking at me.
And so what's gonna end up happening is, even though I'm the one looking, he's controlling my head, he's gonna end up looking at me. Because if he has stuff where he doesn't look at me, I'm just looking at him. I'm looking at him. He can't stop me from looking. Now look at him. Oh look, he looks at me, now I'm not looking at him. And so that slight angle of looking and not looking, that's how we get like our strong angles where they can't attack us as easy. So really everything is about understanding where that center line is, because that center line is the body, is the goal. Then once we understand that the body is the goal, okay, it's just like getting a touchdown. If there's nobody in the way, you just run to the touchdown. If there's somebody in the way, the hands, what are the openings around the hands and the head to get to the body? If I do something like this, if I think the goal is to grab his arm, and I look at his arm and I do this, he just
dead down the body.
He just dead down the body. I can't do anything. But if I put my head on his leading edge, now I can attack his hands, because what ends up happening is his hands have to come in or they got to come out, and then they become weak. We want to be compact such that we can move. We can move our hands. So for example, if I'm here, put your head down, and I go like this, see how he has my center line? I'm not looking at him at all, and my hands are super wide. And then
he's gotta sometimes this might be like tactically efficient if like he knows I'm gonna do something stupid, like go here, and then he just fucking throws me.
Yeah, but that's like assuming my opponent's gonna suck. Whereas I could just be here like this, and then he does the same thing, I can throw anyway. So we want to have us looking at him not looking at us. So look, if I'm not looking at him and he's looking at us, look at the pressure that we can exert. So I'm not looking at him, he's looking at me, and I'm gonna try and push, he's gonna try and push. Push. Okay, ready? Ready? Now I'm gonna look at him. Push.
And everything comes off of that forward pressure.
And so, Cal Jones talks about gi, and he starts with pulling. And that's cool in gi. I think that's good because you get, from the fabric, I get a direct control of the spine. The problem is, in no gi, in order to grab him, I've got to go past his frames a little bit. So here in no gi, I think the push is primary. There's no reason why, in wrestling, a push out is worth a point. And in American folk style, if you push them out enough, they will call you stalling and you will get points. Thomas won a match one time. He got the guy called stalling so much the guy got DQ'd.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those. So like the pull, it's like, so in an American style, this outside style, like, I'm not a good boxer, but my understanding about pulling, because you can pull a punch, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not a good striker, but my understanding is I'm pulling a punch by like standing at his end range, and then he wants to hit me, right? I'm making him chase me, you know? And then like, so like you think you just throw like a slow punch because I suck at this, you know? And I pull it, you know? I pull it, I bring it to me. So American style, general, and this is at the lower level. This is at the lower level when guys don't know, because like when we're talking about like the Iowa style, they're like,
They're pressure.
They're pressure. They're like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna stalk you down, right?
So
and then you
doing-
get guys like John Smith, who they're gonna be here, and I'm gonna pull him. And generally, people who aren't good, they're gonna just reach for my head and I pull, bang, I can go right down the center line with an elevation angle. Okay. So it's like a lot of game like that where if you want to be a primary pull person, you gotta be explosive and you gotta know how to like fight like a boxer more.
And
right?
The other thing that I would state is, again, we're making a castle and then moving in. So primarily we have to understand defensive structure, and so control means defense. So come up. So when I put a frame on him, I'm controlling his position. Come at me, walk at me. He can't walk at me. Try and rotate one way. Try and rotate the other way. So I can feel him.
And then when he comes into me, right? He comes into me, I can drop and find an angle on the side, or I'm here. I'm like this, and he tries to pummel in. I can drop it and just pick him up and throw.
So it's kind of like a castle thing, where there's two parts of this castle where either we're touching or we're not. Even if I'm not touching, my frames are gonna be in the way. So right now I'm going to talk a little bit about like reaching and like what that means from like a little farther away. So just like in jiu-jitsu, we want to kill the lead side. So if we're far away, he's a right leg lead. Come closer here so you can see more. He's a right leg lead.
I'm going to attack with
That means he's going to attack with this hand.
I could go here too, but it's a stance shift. Like I have to shift my stance.
So people tell you, don't reach with your lead leg. That's bullshit. It depends on what he's doing. So look, if he's a right leg lead, I reach with my back hand, he posts, attack this.
Or even,
I post, he attacks this side. This is attack, his attack hand is right here. This
or
lead
even,
leg.
so he reaches with his lead hand, and I go through.
So I reach with my back, with this hand against his lead hand. I don't want to do that. I'm going to reach with my lead, with my right leg lead, because he's there. I'm going to reach here. I'll even do this. Now I'm going to reach with my backhand. It doesn't matter because this is the lead side. Now if he switches sides, now obviously I don't want to reach with this one. I'm going to reach with the other hand. So it's like, what is he doing? Because if he's here on the lead side, I want to keep my hand down to block his hand, block his arm, block his shoulder.
So when I do my down block, so right here, he shoots, bang, my hand goes like this, and he catches him with the forearm here on his lead side. So I can do it with my head too, you know, bang. So when I'm making this contact, when I'm reaching, the thing that gets us effed up is a lot of people will reach directly to the head to try to like catch the hook here. And the thing is that, at least in my experience, we want to have like a frames first approach, right? Like hooks are really nice and they're beautiful and you know they're good and all. Like I'm not saying they suck. I'm saying that for defensive soundness, it's more pushing wedges.
And also offensive soundness. Again, in no-gi, a push is stronger than a pull. It's just stronger. Now, obviously, if we get a tight hook around the body, cool. But then we have to be super close. I've got to get at least the elbow, or I've got to get the body. So whereas with the frame, I can do it from farther away.
So here, I'm not going like, where it's like this big hook, because he just does this, like, you know? What I'm doing is I'm probing. I'll even go here, say we're right on left. I'll go to his head, and I'm just probing like a little spear.
Or he'll go on.
Or say here, we're left versus left. We're left versus left. Here, I'll go to the shoulder.
Well, watch out for this.
Right here, let's do right versus right, because I'm not actually right versus right. Bam! I'll go here to the shoulder. I'll go here to the shoulder. Right? I'll go here to the shoulder, and I'll have this ready in the way. And so then if we're right versus left, this hand won't actually go to this shoulder, generally speaking, because it's both our backhands.
Go to the collar.
I'll go either the collar, or if I'm farther away, I'll go to the face. Because I'll go to the face, and he can't, like, you know.
So it's about creating frames on the center line on the body. Looking at him on the center line on the body. And it's the same thing when we're talking about our attacks. So we talked about a couple holes. Make position. Hands up. This hole, and that middle hole.
And then obviously the
But now there's the outside holes. So if we're doing a high crotch, people do high crotches that go like this.
And this sucks. This is where you get, you know.
I'm gonna look at his center line on his rib. I'm gonna do high crotch. Look at him. Even on the back, you look at him. See, look, I'm here. If I do my drag like this, a lot of space.
See, it allows them to reach, like, instead of reaching like this, it's like a straight. Even when I'm doing my high crotch, if I go like this one, and I'm here to cut off, he catches me with his arm very easily. Here, not only do I have that leverage to push it down, but I can catch that double easier. So I'm going like this, not like this.
So again, to just make this, I know we're kind of like rambling. This is a little hard to get through in like a video.
Especially when we were having premeditated the fucking thing.
Again, the basic idea is control resides upon the body. They have a center line. They want their center line looking at yours so that they can push it. That center line is either going to be directly in the middle underneath their neck here, on this collarbone if they're right, on this collarbone if they're left. And then you want to pivot around that center line like this to get directly to the body. They're going to put defensive structures. They're going to bring their guys in, putting their heads in. Do. And in that way, it is the exact same as jiu-jitsu. If he's in supine guard, supine. I don't want to just run into him. I go, okay, now I'm going directly to his body. Okay, I've made myself aimed at his post. Okay. Looking at his center lines. Finding those lanes around his guard.
Yeah,
so
like,
when we talk about segmentation, everybody goes, and especially like the Souders people, they go, you climb the ladder, get to the body, then back to here for submissions. Okay? It's simpler than that. Go to the fucking body, and if there's something in the way, you move them or you move yourself out of the way to get to the body. And then that's it. Then, if we're doing jiu-jitsu, okay, now we can worry about resegmenting out. If we're wrestling, we don't care about resegmenting out.
It's all
we
about the body.
just want the body because all we care about is control.
So look, I've got like levels of control in the body. I've got like long hand, short hand, forearm, chest to the body. Now I can come in with this underhook to hook it, right? And I've got this right here. So there's my chest frame. But when we go to the body, I get my chest on, I grab it with my arms. I grab his body with my arms, or his hips, here. Or maybe I even have an arm trapped. Or even, I come to the body, and I've got his legs. Or I come to the body, and I've got his leg. Or I come to the body, see I'm controlling the body, and I've got his leg. But the key element of it, and there's exceptions, there's anchoring to the leg for sure, but I want this body. I want to control that body because this here, it's only useful because there's a lever point to his body, which means a lever point to the spine. That's why that head is so strong, because it's direct to the spine.
Again, so when we're talking about these holes, let's talk about a little bit about front headlock situation and snaps. So we're here, we're doing this. I can go directly into him. See how I have frame, and then my head's gonna frame. I can snap him, and now I'm still dealing with this top hole. I'm just dealing with it behind him. He's not looking at me. If his head comes up to look at me, oh no, I'm fucked. We want to keep his head down. We want him to not look at us. That's why we like to have that game where we play creepy guy. Right here, you see this big emblem? Don't look at my emblem. You see people that do this big. No, here, now it's small. You know,
a lot of people, they're like, oh, my stance, this is a stance thing. Oh, I want to be here. I want to be here, and I want my chest open. The problem is, how I reach the ground here.
Also, your chest is open. These holes are fucking huge. Chest down, chest closed. Now they're not as big.
It's more when I go to actually attack you with my chest that it comes open to tackle you.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of European guys, they're more like this. They're more like this because they're trying to take a slow, methodical approach to getting.
Yeah, and that's why a lot of European guys, especially like Eastern European guys, tend to be a lot more pressure. You're gonna get like your Uzbekistan kind of guys, more like they're like more Eastern. They're gonna be more like darty. But again, like it's not actually different, those outside styles. And so the issue
is just more like boxing, where it's defensive traffic and not a frame, because it's not actually touching you until it is.
Yeah, and so when I say like American hand fighting is shitty, what I mean is like people aren't taught get to the body, control the body, frame on the body. We're taught, okay, here, take the hand, drag. Okay, grab the head, snap. It's like a spamming a move, and it's like, okay, well, why am I doing that? Why is the goal? So at low levels, meaning, and when I say low levels, I mean like anything outside of the top 30, D1 or D2 or D3 even, but like outside of a ranked guy, generally, their hand fighting is going to be pretty fucking shit. You know, like I've coached D1, and there's a lot of D1 guys who just do not know get to this. When I was in D1, when I was wrestling, I didn't know this shit. I would just do the club underhook, and then if I couldn't do it, well, fuck me, I don't know what to do now. Hope he shoots so I can front headlock him.
Literally,
like,
my entire game in high school is walk at guys, stalk them. They take a shitty shot, I down block. So I beat a lot of guys in college doing that, just down block and then go behind.
Yeah, and so then we can get into like a lot of nitty gritty about how to snapping the hands, how to snapping the head, side snaps versus straight snaps, and that's all cool, interesting details.
But and how we use our footwork to move around the body, very similar to boxing.
Yeah, but again, it's just about finding your lane to get to the body. That's all it is. The goal, the end zone, is the body. Don't let them get to your end zone. You get to their end zone. Go around their guys. And that's it. Anything else to add, Tom?
No, not really. I think that covers the basis of it, right? We're trying to get to the body so we can knock them to their back. And yeah, that's about it. If you have questions or things that you want to have us go into more specifically, or something that we explained that didn't really make sense, let us know. We'll come back to it.
I'm sorry this is so rambly. Just it's obviously there's a lot to it. It's deep,
and we're kind of ad hoc here.
And so we're doing this without like writing up what we're doing. We're just going at it.
So anyway, questions, comments, concerns, let us know.